Welcome back, Geico Outkick Studios. Hope all of you are having a fantastic Monday wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. We broke down the NFC East disaster for you at the start of the show, along with everything that is entailed in that disaster, including the fact that I firmly believe the NFC East doesn't deserve a playoff bid at all based on what we've seen from the Washington football team, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Giants so far this year. I don't even know what record is going to end up winning that division, but we spent a lot of time on that. There are a lot of other NFL stories that I think are worth diving into here. So I want to run through all of those with you. I spent the day, like I always do on Sunday, watching NFL games all day long. And the game that I found to be maybe the most intriguing of all from the perspective of what it told us about both teams was the Chargers-Buccaneers game. The Buccaneers and Tom Brady are starting to get on a roll, and I pulled some of the stats from Brady in the event that you didn't see it to give you a sense for how well Brady's doing. The final 20 throws that Brady had in that game, 18 of 20, 269 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 INTs, a perfect passer rating. We knew that based on the fact that there was no preseason and that we're in an abnormal sort of universe in general in the world of sports, that it might take Brady a little while to start to hit his rhythm. But he had 5 touchdown passes to 5 different wide receivers or tight ends. O.J. Howard, by the way, tears his Achilles and is now out for the season. That will be a tough loss for this offense. But you're starting to see Tom Brady round into shape. Every game he's gotten better than the one before. Yes, he had a pick six, and that seems to be a flaw of the Bruce Arians offense in general, that for whatever reason, it seems to lead to a decent amount of interceptions. But this offense is starting to hit its rhythm and make some plays, and that's despite the fact that we've seen Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both have health issues and not be able to get into their full rhythm either. I believe Brady and the Buccaneers are going to be in the playoff. I've said that from the get-go. They may be one of the top seeds in the playoffs because right now they're in the lead, obviously, in the NFC South, and we'll get into some other games that took place in the NFC South here in a moment. And obviously, we got one tonight with the Falcons on the road against the Packers. But I don't want the Brady performance to slide under the radar. Again, in his final 20 pass attempts in this game against the Chargers, who have had a very good defense so far. I know they had injuries. 18 of 20, 4 touchdowns, a perfect passer rating. Something else. This is the first time that Tom Brady, I mentioned, has thrown 5 touchdown passes to 5 different receivers in his entire career. And that obviously is something extraordinary when you have a situation with Tom Brady doing something that he's never done before. Now, that was on the Bucs side of the equation. The other side, Justin Herbert is for real. I mean, this guy went 20 of 25, 3 touchdowns, 138 passer rating. And if you saw the deep ball that he threw, where he had a blitz coming at him, where he stepped backwards and just kept buying time, and then he just dropped one in, I mean, it was a perfect throw right after the Bucs had taken the lead for the first time in this game since 7-0. It's 28-24, final play of the third quarter. The Bucs bring a blitz, and Justin Herbert just continues to fall backwards. And it was Patrick Mahomes-like almost, off his back foot. He flings it downfield, hits his receiver, Jalen Guyton, in stride. 72-yard touchdown pass. Was just pretty phenomenal to see that come together for Justin Herbert already. I know the Chargers are 1-3, but if you are a fan of the Chargers, I should say a long-suffering fan of the Chargers, it feels like to me you have your quarterback of the future, and I just don't see, even though I feel bad for Tyrod Taylor and the fact that they had the messed up injection, which ended up costing him the start in week 2, 3, and 4 now, I don't see how he ever gets his job back. I just don't, because Herbert is playing at such a high level. Anthony Lynn and the Chargers have to be ecstatic with their young quarterback and what he could mean going forward. I believe that Justin Herbert has been about as good early in his debut as he could possibly be. So that, to me, was the most intriguing game in terms of what we learned from both sides. The other one that I thought was intriguing because of what we learned from both sides, Vikings on the road against the Texans. Guys, I don't get everything right when it comes to predictions. I'm far from perfect in trying to analyze the way things are going to go in the football season. But I told you before the season started that I thought the Texans would go 1-6 to start their year, maybe 2-5. I think I was too generous. Jags are coming to town next week. The Texans better win that game. If they lose that one, then we're talking about the Texans going on the road against the Titans. I don't feel good about their chances there. Then they get the Packers, and I don't feel good about their chances there either, which would mean that 1-6 is very much in play for a start to the season. Now, it gets a little bit easier, you would think, early in the season when you're looking at the schedule. You get the Jags again, but then you get the Browns, who are 3-1, and we talked about them in the open. And then you get the Patriots, and I don't feel good about the Texans' chances against the Patriots. And down the stretch run of the season, I mean, there are going to be legitimate questions about why Bill O'Brien still has his job. He has made really questionable decisions, I think, at the general manager position. It doesn't seem like his team particularly likes him. They just gave $100 million to Deshaun Watson, and they are not getting $100 million performances out of Watson. I think the decision to trade away DeAndre Hopkins has certainly hurt in that offense in a big way. And this team is starting to fall apart, sitting at 0-4. Obviously a must-win game for both the Jags and the Texans. Divisional contest in the next one, but I don't know that it really matters for either side. They both feel like they're out of the mix, and if they're out of the mix, I do think you're going to start to see some criticism come in on Deshaun Watson, because if you're a $100 million quarterback, I think Bill O'Brien is the wrong coach. I felt like he's not a good decision for the Texans for a long time. But if you are a $100 million quarterback, you should never find yourself in a position where your team is going to be sitting at 1-6 or something like that, and you are healthy. That's why you pay a quarterback $100 million, because it should keep that from happening. To me, that's a big story on the side of the Texans. The Vikings found a way to win. It's a matchup of two teams that made the playoffs last year. The Vikings were not perfect, but they took control of this game early. And look, Kirk Cousins was fairly solid. And I feel a lot better about the Vikings going forward, certainly, than I do the Texans, even though the Vikings' schedule does not get a lot easier because they go on the road against the undefeated Seahawks. And I don't think the Vikings are going to be in the mix to make the playoffs anyway, but at least they have a glimmer of hope now, finding a way to get a win, whereas the Texans feel like they are done, buried, and gone. The other one that I thought told us a lot about both teams that were involved, the Colts on the road against the Bears. I thought the Colts exposed the Bears a little bit, and I also think the Colts, in getting to 3-1 and winning their third straight game, are doing a great job of protecting, by and large, Phillip Rivers. Although he did get sacked 4 times by the Bears, they are playing well enough that you start to think the Colts are going to be in the postseason. They've had a lot of injuries. The Bears could very easily be 0-4, even though right now they're sitting at 3-1. To me, the storyline here, as you work forward, is an intriguing one. Nick Foles was not particularly good. I know he had the late drive inside of 2 minutes or whatever to get a touchdown, but this offense did not move the ball at all. The Colts came out and they really took control early, never relinquished it. It was kind of an ugly defensive struggle in general, but the Colts getting to 3-1, the AFC South race is now a 2-team race, right? It's down to either the Colts or the Titans are going to win that division. Titans, in theory, are playing against the Bills on Sunday after having their bye week this week because of the COVID-related issues. Seems to me that is going to be a hell of a battle down the stretch to see what exactly happens between the Colts and the Titans. The Bears, I'm just not a believer. And I know Bear fans out there, when we were ranking the 3-0 teams, I had the Bears in my last place position. To me, that's a storyline that's worth following to see what exactly is going to happen there. The Bengals. The Bengals basically put the Jags into the mix for Trevor Lawrence competition. Congratulations to Joe Burrow for getting his first ever win. I love what Joe Burrow has meant to the Bengals already. Last week, they got the tie. This week, they get the win. I think if you are in Cincinnati right now, you have to be ecstatic with how good your young quarterback has looked. How about the Saints? Everybody was throwing dirt on Drew Brees' grave. including your boy here, saying that he didn't feel like he had the same sort of pop in his arm that he had in past years. They got down 14-0 early to the Lions. A lot of people thought, things are going to be done for here. And then what happens? The Lions fold. The Saints catch fire. Their offense becomes a juggernaut on the road. Big-time win for the Saints there to answer some of the criticism. Theoretically, when Michael Thomas comes back healthy, the Saints have managed to weather that lack of health. They're 2-2. Yes, they've played a tough start to the schedule. Maybe they can start to get on a little bit of a rhythm. Speaking of rhythm, how about the Seahawks finding a way to get things done against the Dolphins in a performance where they never looked that good until late? Seahawks surged to 4-0 with Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson maintains his position as your NFL MVP leader. Battle of the Beltway, the Ravens on the road against Washington. It's really just kind of an ugly game. There was not a lot of the Ravens came out and took control of it, but there wasn't a lot of sort of flow to this game. I still think if you look at his numbers that Lamar Jackson is not playing anywhere near like he did last season. He had the one breakaway run in this game where he started to look like himself, but I thought that the Washington football team did a pretty good job hemming him up, and they brought in RG3, who threw an interception and then proceeded to allow the Washington football team to come back down and potentially get the cover or a push, depending on what number you got in that game. The Panthers were given up for dead early in the season. They looked bad. The Cardinals looked white hot. These felt like two ships passing in the night. Maybe I was too early in my praise of Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. Just okay from Kyler Murray at best. It seems like teams are starting to get a little bit better control how to rein him in. And Teddy Bridgewater had a very, very solid performance for the Carolina Panthers to get them to 2-2 and put them, believe it or not, squarely in the race, even without Christian McCaffrey, to at least be competitive in the NFC South. The Rams were ugly, did not play well against the Giants. We talked a little bit about the NFC East, as I said earlier in that breakdown. I didn't think that the Rams deserved to win this game. We saw the big brawl at the end of the game, which had a lot of drama involving Jalen Ramsey and Golden Tate. If you missed that story and wondered why they were fighting, Jalen Ramsey has 2 children with Golden Tate's sister and evidently has abandoned the relationship in some way, which has upset Golden Tate, and there is a lot of discord there. As a Nashville guy, I've heard about these guys not liking each other. Golden Tate from Nashville, Jalen Ramsey from Nashville. Again, the mom of Golden Tate, the wife, what do you want to call it? The mother of Jalen Ramsey's children and Golden Tate. The families are just at feud, and you saw that on the field. They were going back and forth at each other in an aggressive way, and at the end of the game, they had a legitimate fight. I would think that there will be substantial penalties probably levied on those guys. And then finally, for the games that were taking place, the Bills and the Raiders. By the way, we've been giving out the Outkick 6-pack of picks. We went 4-1 again. So we've got Monday Night Football. We've got the over tonight. But we went 5-1, 5-1, and now 4-1 in those picks. We are 14-3 in our last 17 Outkick 6-pack picks that we give out on the final part of the show every Friday. We've gotten to such a white-hot roll, I'm afraid a bunch of you are going to come in and start betting them, and we're not going to be able to keep up this pace because 5-1, 5-1, 4-1 is incredible. But I want to give a shout-out to the Raiders for their late touchdown and extra point, which gave us the opportunity to hit 4-1. We'll see if we can have a third straight week of 5-1s when the game kicks off later tonight. But the Bills may be the second-best team in the AFC right now because I like the Bills and what I have seen from Josh Allen this year more than I like what I've seen from the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. The Titans have only played 3 games. They play against the Bills this weekend. We'll see how they match up. The Chiefs are clearly, I think, the class of the AFC. But, man, that is a team to keep your eye on. The Bills travel across the country, take control. They bedeviled Derek Carr all day long, got a ton of turnovers. It felt like every time I looked up at that game to pay attention to it, The Raiders were getting stopped in the second half, turning the ball over, never really were able to make a strong game of it, and the Bills continue to be really, really dominant. Now, we didn't talk much about this. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit to finish off the hour, but we've got a double Monday Night Football edition tonight because they had to change the Chiefs and the Patriots game because obviously Cam Newton tests positive for COVID. So far, we have not had any more positives, and as a result, it appears that that game is going to be played as an early kickoff game on Monday, and this will be intriguing to see how Hoyer does at quarterback for the Patriots going up against the Chiefs, particularly because the Chiefs have really owned this rivalry of late. Andy Reid 3-1 against Bill Belichick in the last 4. Patrick, the one game they lost, obviously, was the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago where, sorry, Chiefs fans, but you shouldn't feel that bad now because you won a Super Bowl. But when you had a player lineup offsides, negated the Tom Brady interception. And from there, the Patriots found a way to win that one and then go on and beat the Rams and win a 6th Super Bowl for Tom Brady. But we got double Monday Night Football games going on tonight. We'll talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to tee off on what I would call the cosmetic theater of absurdity, which was going on last night if you watch Sunday Night Football. And Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth were required by Santa Clara officials to wear masks. They had to wear masks to call the game. Now, I'm not sure if they kept them on for the entirety of the game because there weren't shots constantly of them that I saw in the press box. But when they opened the game, they had their masks on and said they had to call the game while wearing the masks. It's possible they took them off once the games actually began. But this is the height of absurdity to require two guys sitting in a booth who can be distant from one another to wear masks while you call a football game. This is what I'm talking about when I discuss the absurdity of cosmetic theater in terms of the way that the rules are being applied. And I'm going to go in on this using that as an example and also tie it in with what I saw from the Corona Bros in the sports media complaining about crowds and the fact that some people in the crowds didn't have masks on in college football. It's the mask police. All of this is just the height of cosmetic theater absurdity, and I'm going to talk about it next.